Hello folks, back again for some more hobby nightmares. I hope your week is going well. I hope it's starting pretty well. Let's jump straight in, shall we, with our first hobby nightmares. If you want to support a really good store, head on down to Composite Games in the description down below. Use the promo code Northern Exile to get yourself 5% off your order of models and anything you want hobby related at checkout. Right, let's jump in, shall we? Warsmith says, Buongiorno El Northo. Thank you very much, Warsmith. You can call me Warsmith, or Ragnar, whatever else you fancy. I'll do Warsmith since you did that first, and Iron Warriors are awesome, so there you go. I've been a lurker on your channel and Patreon for a little while now, and thought I'd send something in. Right, so onwards. Here is the tale of my 30k experiences, my 30k group, and how I might be the worst 30k player in existence. Not sure if this is a nightmare or just a general hobby story, but onwards and upwards. Right, I will say to you right now, if you're a decent guy with a well-painted army, you're not the worst Horus Heresy player. It's not about your skills in the game. That's what I like about it the most. It's not about the skills in the game, and it's not about winning, alright? It's about telling stories and having fun. I have been in the hobby ever since I picked up a small box of Guardsmen back in 2011-ish, and played 40k for years, until deciding to make the switch to 30k around 2019. I'm afraid to say, it was the 8th edition that turned me off, because, as much as I know you like it, the new lore, armour facings being binned, and issues with the line of sight turned me off completely. But I digress. Fair enough. I'd been aware of 30k for a while. Okay, that's cool. But I'd never really gotten into it. However, a good friend of mine who plays Imperial Fists persuaded me to make the switch. I spent a little while choosing a Legion. I loved the lore and more grounded aesthetic of 30k, and after some deciding, I naturally settled on Iron Warriors, because you are, my friend, a man of culture. As a more dirty, industrial look always appealed to me as a different look for Space Marines. As well as him, we got a nice little group going down in Portsmouth, and started playing small games with our burgeoning forces. Many of them being Zone Mortalis games. In fact, I distinctly remember going down for a game the day before the pub shut for COVID in early 2020. During the lockdown, what was being on furlough and everything, I was able to knuckle down and with quite a bit of hobby. I painted the majority of my 4th Legion infantry in that time, and that August got some of the bigger units, as well as one of the Black Books. Post-lockdown, I managed to get a few more games in, some big ones, and a lot of it was floor hammer during these days. I also decided that I wanted to start 30k Marines, sometime after reading No Fear and deciding it was my favourite heresy novel. Okay, 30k Ultramarine, sorry, I meant to say that. Okay, that's cool. Dude, you're going down the rabbit hole that all heresy players do. Do you know what I mean? You read one heresy book and you're like, oh, these guys are cool, maybe I'll get one squad, and before you know it, you spent 700 quid. I also found another group in Winchester where I was able to get more games in. Now, besides a couple of exceptions, I cannot seem to get wins in, although it is probably largely due to my playstyle, and the fact that others are quicker to invest in different units than I am. It can be very frustrating at times, but also can be quite funny. I distinctly remember one game which was my Iron Warriors against my friend's White Scars. I practically had the game, to the point where I had my Contemptor Dreadnought chasing his last bike off the table. However, we were playing War of Lies, which meant rolling to see the value of each objective, the last of which was tantamount to a spring-loaded boxing glove, or hand grenade on a string in a box. Due to my role, meaning this had negative victory points. Another example was, shall we say, a friendly fire incident. This was back in Heresy 1, when Dreadnoughts were still vehicles, and I was playing with Iron Warriors alongside one of the guys' Solar Auxilia against our other friends' Blood Angels. What happened was, I had a Sicarian Venator, which had a pretty destructive Strength 10, Ordnance 2 neutron beam laser, and on the Blood Angels' turn, a Contemptor and Incendius God, I hate Blood Angels names, man. A Contemptor Incendius, that is the Blood Angels deep striking jetpack dreadnought, deep struck next to an auxiliary las rifle section on my side of the board, and managed to take some of them out. This is before Contemptors were completely broken in 30k. On my turn, therefore, the Venator was not having it, and pivoted the neutron beam laser directly level at the Incendius. Unleashing its full firepower, the laser met its target directly, melting right through the armour and finding its way to the reactor core. Unfortunately for the las rifle section, this meant one thing: bright flash of light, huge explosion, and if I recall, pretty much all of the survivors got vaporized by a supercharged laser beam setting off a dreadnought's reactor. Friendly fire incidents, definitely not the Iron Warrior in the Iron Warrior's remit. Yet they are, though. They are. That's the most Iron Warriors thing you could have done, right? They don't give a monkeys about their allies, right? That is a very Iron Warriors thing to do. Oh, and if I remember, that was also the game when Tormentor, Perturabo's personal shadow sword, vaporized Sanguinius with its volcano cannon, itself avenging the fact that the Lord of Iron had been slain on a previous turn by Hawkboy. I still lost, though. Dude, you are playing Iron Warriors the exact way they're supposed to be played, right? You don't give a shit about your allies. You're even firing nearby or on them, right? You don't give a monkeys about honor. So yeah, Perturabo may have been killed or at least wounded by Sanguinius, so he has to leave the field. But then you wound Sanguinius to the point he can't carry on by just shooting him with a tank. You know, it's the most dishonourable thing you can do to such a combat Primarch. But you're an Iron Warrior. You're playing them exactly right. You're an amazing Horus Heresy player. I don't get where you say you're not very good. Alright? You're an elite Horus Heresy player, in my opinion. Your behaviour is an elite Horus Heresy player. You know, winning doesn't matter in Horus Heresy. It doesn't, right? Even if you're at an event. Actually, I had a couple of wins last edition. But part of the problem I found is that for the large part, the Iron Warriors units I have are somewhat catered to somewhat catered to the previous edition when I built the army. Okay, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. With many having since been nerfed. On the other hand, the Ultramarines have only had a small amount of field experience, but I look forward to giving them more. They are based heavily around a theme, which is the bedraggled ground forces commanded by Remus Ventinus during the Battle of Calth. And I've made an effort to include a variety of different units that would have been brought together during the chaos, including some militia. I've attached a few pictures of my hobby, as I've been dying to share them with you for ages, and I couldn't think of what else to write for a while. First is an Army's Parade display of my Iron Warriors I did for my local Games Workshop store. Shout out to the Portsmouth store, by the way. They're good lads, and they are good lads that run it. Second is a few headshots of my Ultramarine characters. 3 is a Dreadnought Telemachus in full, and 4 and 5 are edited glamour shots of some Iron Warriors and Ultramarines in-game, respectively. Anyway, thanks for all you do, and I may send something else in about my RPG group at some point. All the best, Ragnar the Warsmith. Anyway, that's cool. Let's see some of your pictures, shall we? If I was a bit quiet earlier on, it's because my mic wasn't in the right place. Ooh! Very nice. Glamour shots are always nice. You can tell you put a lot of love and effort into these. Dude, you're really good at faces. That's annoying. That's annoying. Is that Gilliman in the middle? Yeah, of course. You're doing Ultramarines. Of course you are. That's cool. I love how weathered they are. And now you've got like militia in there as well, just doing a bit. It's cool. Like the Dreadnought. Oh, that army's on parade. Army's brilliant, man. Oh, I love that. I love that. But you gotta love Iron Warriors. Let's zoom in a little bit. You gotta love Iron Warriors. That's brilliant. It's all the tanks and the nonsense. Fantastic stuff. Lovely stuff. Iron Circle as well. Dude, you put a lot of money into that. And your last glamour shot is of your Ultramarines, which I like. Excellent stuff. On to the next hobby nightmare. AJ says, "Hey North, if you're reading this, I recently found your channel and I've enjoyed the content, so thank you for that. You can call me AJ. No worries. A trigger warning on self-harm and self-deletion." Okay. So if you're not into hearing about that right now, then off you go. Into the night you go, my friend. So, for a little backstory. Alright? Do you like a little backstory? I started playing D&D in early 2019 and got into 40k near the middle of 2019. And so, I am a fairly new tabletop gamer. I got into D&D on a whim and went to one of the friendly local game stores in my area that hosts D&D nights with a few different groups. Well, most of the groups did not accept new players, but one group always did, and that's where I found myself learning to love the game even more. We had two main dungeon masters who would rotate out when the other couldn't make it, or couldn't prepare the next session in time. They played off with a random plane shift that would affect your party. So there are a few people who are important. The main DM we will refer to as Wolfgang. The secondary DM we will refer to as Roy. Player 1 is Jay and player 2 is Lee. Player 3 is James, and the player who this entire story revolves around is Gary. Alright, so Wolfgang and Roy are two very different dungeon masters. Wolfgang will let things slide with the rule of cool, or let a die roll determine it, and if something goes extremely wrong, he might roll things back a bit. Roy is not so kind. He will let you make your bed and lie in it. They both do their styles well and make it clear how they do it. Well, shortly before I joined the group, Gary entered the game. Gary is a mid to late 20s guy who is fairly clear and has special needs of some sort. He will do things without considering the repercussions of his actions in-game. For example, I was playing a rogue who specialised in perception and investigation. Both were around 27 passively at level 5. I mean, dude, it's so easy to make broken-ass characters in D&D. We were walking through a town when I noticed there were people watching us from the rooftop with an inn/pub. So I decided to sneak in and see what they were up to. Long story short, I got caught, but managed to escape the goons and get back to the party. The barkeep pulls a lever, and traps everybody inside, and we fight. We kill all the goons, and the town guard shows up. They start questioning us, and for whatever reason, Gary decided to stab the town guard. I asked him if he really thought that was a good idea, and he said it was. During this event, Roy was DMing and said, "Alright, Gary, roll for initiative." He let the rest of us choose to help or sit out. Being in our right minds, in the middle of a large city with a large professional guard army, we decided to let Gary's dice fall where they may. 2 turns and he was dead. That's so funny. Like the DM just let him do it, go, "Yeah, you're dead. Okay, fine." Roy let him bring back his character exactly how he was, with a different name, but wanted him to learn a lesson on how it's a game, but treat it with a level of respect, and respect the real world and its laws. Now that the backstory is out of the way, that guy's a good DM. Now that the backstory is out of the way, and an example of what we have done is here, let's get on to the real story. So, with my perfect as always timing joining the hobby when I did, the entire world started shutting down almost exactly a year after I started. Well, the friendly local game store shut down for a while, and when they did reopen, they had a lot of rules. One of the rules is wearing a mask at the table when you aren't actively eating. I usually went to D&D right after work, so I picked up food on the way and ate during the game. The friendly local game store started holding some groups to the rules a lot harder than some others. There was one group of LGBTQ+ people, nothing wrong with that, my wife is bi and her sibling is trans, were almost always maskless without any food at the table and never had a word said to them. Yeah, again, I've noticed this too. Liverpool in itself is a very progressive city, and when these rules were in effect in our game stores and our hobby stores, we've only got a few, it was very, very quick I noticed quite a lot, is that if you looked very, shall we say, left, you know what I mean? If you looked like one of their tribe, you were allowed to walk around without a mask on and sit down with that mask on. If you looked normal, or God forbid, you know what I mean, you wore black, or God forbid, you didn't look like one of their tribe, one of their people, you had to wear a mask. It was about control, man. You know, I'm telling you now. You know, we wanted to stop the spread, sure, yeah, we did. But the evidence that we've seen since has said, you know, you probably didn't need to be wearing masks at all, and it was about control. That's all it was about. It's not a conspiracy theory, dude. Like COVID was a real thing. It was a real thing, and it's very dangerous, right? But the actual benefits of masks have been, you know, it's not been disproven, but it is thought about a lot more these days. But did we really need to do that? And if we did, why wasn't everybody who was preaching it practicing it? Because they weren't. The people who were raging at you, let's be honest, most of them who were raging at you were on the far left. And none of them were practicing what they were preaching as far as I was concerned. Especially in geeky circles, none of them were wearing masks. Right? Maybe they were where you are, but where I was, they weren't. They weren't, you know. But you walked in there with a suit on, oh my god, you need to be wearing a mask. Right? It was about control for them. It wasn't about... And by the way, I'm not saying I know that masks didn't help. They might have done. I don't know. Right? But what I'm saying is, whilst the masks may have had a benefit, they weren't telling you to wear a mask because it would benefit people. They were telling you to wear a mask to control. You know, to get that control of, you know, we tell you what to do. Okay? That's what was going on in the spaces where I was. It was very much, you wear a mask. We don't have to. Because, you know, we're pure. And we're amazing, but you have to. So, yeah, masks me... I wore a mask around my grandpa, right? I believed in them. And I still do to some extent. I think that their validity needs to be questioned, as all things do. But I wore a mask around people who I knew were vulnerable, you know what I mean? To make sure that to try everything that I could to keep them safe. I'm not one of these guys who didn't wear masks and was like, it's my right not to wear a mask, dude. No, come on, don't be an asshole, right? You know, some people need you to wear a mask just in case. It may help them. And if it may help you, I'll wear it. You know what I mean? But the attitude I was getting in these stores was not of, we need to safeguard people. It was screaming and whinging and crying. And, you know, you need to wear a mask, you need to wear a mask. Why? Are you vulnerable? No. Then, but you need to. Why aren't you? I don't need to. They know I'm okay. I'm around them all the time. I'm a regular here, I don't need to. Right? I had those conversations over COVID. It's fucking horrible. So yeah. I've been there, dude. And I'm on your side. It's not fair. It wasn't fair. They started to force us to take a bite out of our food, pull our masks up, chew, and then pull out our masks down to take another bite. Dude, I'd just leave. I'd just leave. I'd point out the hypocrisy, and if they didn't want to change that, I'd leave. What about those tables over there with the rainbow-coloured hair? Are they allowed to eat with their masks off? Then why are they allowed and I'm not? Alright, fuck you, bye. That's all you need to do. Get out of there. We got sick of this quickly and decided to move our group elsewhere. Thank you. I love it when I say these things and then they do exactly what I wanted them to do, the next sentence. It's very cathartic. We picked a certain 24-hour all-American diner chain because they had a back room that we could use for free if it wasn't booked. So, from late 2020 to mid-2022, we used this as a regular meet-up spot. During this time, I met James through my job. He had never played D&D before, and someone had told him that I played quite often. We talked about it, and I got him to join the group. He fell in love with it quickly, and was back every week for months. About a month before we stopped using the diner's back room, our weekly game had a pretty massive speed bump. Wolfgang was back to being the main DM and gave us an important item to give to an NPC. Whilst heading to said NPC, we were attacked by the BBEG, the big bad evil guy, and some goons. Well, we started fighting and had a pretty good back and forth, until Gary did Gary things. He decided to make a deal with the big bad evil guy, and he turned on the party and took the book from Roy. He did it. We got Roy's character up, and he attacked Gary on sight. What? I don't know what you mean by book, man. You missed out a load of this story. Okay? We got Roy's character up and he attacked Gary on sight. I jumped in with Roy because he did actively betray the party and we knocked his character out. In the process of this, Lee, our other player's character, lost an arm in a pact to heal Roy. What? We took the arm of Gary and attached it to Lee, and Roy pretty much decided to execute Gary. This is where the bomb dropped, and Gary replied to this with, well, I guess I'm hurting myself tonight. Dude, I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you mean. This entire story has led up to this point, and you've explained nothing. Alright? So I don't know what any of this means. He's removed an arm or something. I don't know what that means. Okay? So, he did it. We got Roy's character up. So Gary's the one who's... I shouldn't need to decipher your stories, guys. No, I'm being honest. Gary is the one who is... shall we say, maybe autistic and is making very, very silly decisions, right? And he's turned on the party. I get that. But why has Roy got one arm? And why is he attaching Gary's arm to his arm? And why is he saying he's going to hurt himself with it? I don't know. I don't know, right? This is where the bomb dropped. And Gary replied to these events with, well, I guess I'm hurting myself tonight. You could have heard a pin drop. Okay. Okay, so this is Gary threatening to harm himself when he goes home for what happens in D&D. Deary me. James turned bright red and was extremely angry at him for this comment. A little backstory on James. He is ex-military and has had several friends commit to the 22 a day. Oh, does that mean people who delete themselves after the military? 22 people a day. Yeah. And for someone to use something like that in such a paltry way sent him over the edge. He laid into Gary for a full 3 minutes at the top of his lungs and then walked out. We all talked to Gary about if the game is causing him that much pain, then he shouldn't play it. Later that week, a few guys caught Gary's dad dropping him off at FNM. I don't know what FNM means. Again, abbreviations. Explain them, man. Come on. Dropping him off at FNM, at other friendly local game stores, and talk to him about what's been going on. James hasn't really played D&D since that night, and I hate that's how his love for the hobby has ended. Gary is doing slightly better now from what I've been told. If I see him at a friendly local game store, I try to at least talk to him for a few minutes if possible. Good lad. There are a lot of issues, and are still issues going on in his life, including multiple catfishings, which our group has talked to his dad about as well, but I hope he can figure it out on his own that he is being used every now and again. Okay, that's the end of the story. So, okay, that's fine, man. Please read over your emails. Because I always read the first half of your emails to make sure they're good. And the amount I've had over the years where the first half is good, and I don't know whether you guys get tired because you're writing it quite late at night or something, but the second half just goes off the rails, and you don't explain anything, and you start throwing in, you know, descriptors that we've not been explained or exposed to. I don't know what was going on with the arm there. It just went all gobbledygook for a while, but anyway. Thank you for sending in, man, and yeah, very, very important stuff there. So, The Lost One says... The Lost One. Hey North, another Games Workshop manager here with an axe to grind, but this is more of a harrowing memory than anything truly sinister. Okay. I love running campaigns, and against the wishes of most of my managers in Games Workshop, I ran a campaign in my store for several years. Okay. It always happened on Thursday nights, based on our own star sector in 40k, and it was brilliant. We actually had 2 boards set up especially just to play in the campaign, with a 3rd already on the way. That's pretty cool. Of course, we'd use them in other games too. I didn't let the campaign snobbery take hold. If you could explain that, that would be great. Okay, campaign snobbery was something that used to happen in Games Workshop stores, where if you were a part of a campaign, customers considered themselves above everybody else in the store, right? Because they were like VIPs. They weren't, but they thought that they were. Okay, cool, moving on. Of course, we'd used the boards in other games too. I didn't let the campaign snobbery take hold. but Thursday nights were the main event nights. The thing is, we had people there of all ages, and many hobby dads brought their sons. Now, initially, the sons were in charge of their armies. They would tell the troops where to go, and their dads would simply help them with rolling and doing the rules. As the weeks rolled on, and we went through the campaign, it soon became apparent that towards Christmas, we would be deciding the fate of at least a few worlds in the campaign setting. They would come down to single battles. Not a problem in and of itself, but the competitive nature of the dads was starting to rear its head. Oh no. Oh no. I can see where this is going. Nothing worse than pushy parents. On more than one occasion, I had to step in and settle down an argument between two or more of the dads over a rule or who was being super competitive when the kids were also there. It really started to piss me off, as looking over there, I started to see that a lot of the kids looked like they didn't want to be there anymore, which was a huge blow to me personally. One Sunday, I invited the dads on their own to a Sunday get-together in the store and instructed that any not showing up would be out of the campaign. I was there all day to speak to them and would stay late if I had to make the time for them. When the store was closed that evening, we sat down and I explained why the behaviour of them was not on in the store. They were acting like pushy sports dads with worse and almost autistic attitudes towards winning. Oh my god, dude, you laid in there. That is exactly what I was thinking. You know the dad who stands at the side of a football pitch and swears at his son for not playing football the right way? I hate that kind of thing. Cannot stand it. There's nothing sadder than living vicariously through your kids that way and shouting at them from the sidelines. As a teacher, I've come across a lot. It's not nice, and it needs to go in the bin and then be thrown in the sea. They all agreed to calm things down if the campaign was going to continue, and I was relieved as I'd put so much effort into organising the bloody thing. Then Christmas came around, and I was sorting out the store with my guys and generally having a good time on the last open day before the 25th. We were finishing this section of the campaign with a 2v2 with 4 dads playing. Not ideal, as their sons just mill about and roll some dice for them. Yeah, so they've changed, haven't they? So the sons were in charge, yeah. Remember, this campaign started with the kids being the overall generals and their dads there just to help out. Now they changed completely and their dads were playing the game with their kids there just rolling a few dice for them. And now here we are. Dude, these dads are the fucking worst, honestly. How sad do you need to be? Just get your own models and go and play with the other dads if that's what you want to do. But you're there for your kids, alright? It starts off with good-natured ribbing as the dads escalate their game. Soon, though, I am listening to them openly arguing about cover and dice rolls. People coming into the store on the off chance as passers-by are looking rather concerned as these guys verbally lay into each other. I am so busy with other customers as it's Christmas, but I resolve to head down there and sort it out. As I'm walking over, I see it. One dad finally squares up to another. He gets shoved, and then they are at each other, physically, in front of the kids. I separate them and tell them to pack up their shit and leave. I tell them there and then that their kids are more than welcome in the store if they are with their mothers, and ban both dads for life. I shut down the campaign and put away the boards there and then, replacing them with normal ones. Oh, dude, that must have been soul destroying. Oh no. We never saw trouble again, and after a year, the dads were eventually allowed back in the store for the sake of their sons, but their gaming privileges in the store were revoked for life, and I wouldn't let their sons play if their dads were in the store. I couldn't risk another altercation in a family space, and was doing them a huge solid by just letting them come back at all. Sigh. Pushy parents ruin everything. Thanks, North, the lost one. Dude, you know, if those dads are living with the mums of their sons, right? They are getting a fucking bollocking when they get home. An absolute bollocking when they go back. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what she'd lay into you with if you did shit like this? That's ridiculous. Oh my god. Anyway, I love you a long time, folks. I will speak to you tomorrow. You have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you then. Have a good one. Bye now.